Hey, what's up? The more I work on this paper, this GIN extension, this mini wall project, whatever you want to call it, the more I realize there's less for me to contribute in the form of my original idea. I think especially where I am now with the project, I have to do like a large pivot or a mini pivot, depending how you want to look at it. So today has largely been less building and more learning. And I think I've been talking about this for a while now, where it feels like I'm building a ship while on the seas, right? So it's like where or have like agentic coding assistants, right? That's all simple. So it's like a lot of the crux of this project has to come from your understanding, and your understanding is kind of what yields the novelty for the extension, right? And that understanding within me is kind of absence, and now I'm gaining that understanding through breaking stuff, understanding stuff, and kind of wasting a bunch of time, but in the process still understanding and learning, right? So right now the bulk of what I was doing was just learning through the code base, seeing what I misunderstood, seeing what I did understand, and really trying to get a better idea. But in doing that, I kind of realized that my original idea of just improving the latent space through providing a different architecture was well intentioned, but it wasn't. It was from a misconception of the code base from the research papers, because this research paper isn't up to. It's not the same. It's the same research paper as the code base, but it's not up to date because the code base has another architecture called Wire, right? I think it's a wave implicit. I even know, right? It's something like that. But that architecture was referenced in the paper, I believe, and then that paper, that architecture improves a lot of the stuff from the architectures mentioned in the paper, which are Siren and Soft plus Max, right? So different architectures that do have their own problems. Like Siren is really good, I think. At I think it was like the interpolations in the latent space, but then Soft plus Max wasn't really good at it. But then Siren was also like very um I remember. I could go into the paper. The point is the wire architecture kind of does the stuff I wanted to do. So like even when I looked at do the interpolation for the latent space with the wire architecture, it's just like it's crazy good. I think the reason I was confused for a while was that what I did is that I kind of went beyond the trained latent space of the that architecture. So it was like trained from 0 to 0.1. But I said, okay, I'm just gonna do, because in the paper I saw like, oh, they did negative 0.1 to 0.1. So like, okay, I'm just gonna change it there and see how my fine-tuned approach of the wire architecture improves it. And then I'm getting lost here, but yeah, it did improve because I did adjust the latent space, but it turns out you're not actually meant to do that. And then when I actually put it to the original latent space or the original confinements, it turned out the original model actually worked better, because the way I was doing it was that I was fine-tuning on I think I was just like doing on the connectivity constraint or whatever. So I think that kind of messed up the I focus on the connectivity loss function. I think that messed up the other loss functions and the other stuff going on within the model. All that to say, a lot of the work I wanted to do with extending this paper, I think, has been done through this wire architecture. Not to say that it doesn't have limitations, but I think taking that same approach I was taking before is not going to work. I do think there's still desire within me to be able to navigate the latent space. So, like, let's say you generate a shape. Let's say this is probably a more complex shape, as you can see. But let's say like you want to generate something like this. This has a lot of stuff you would want, like if you're to break it up into texture, the shape, the flop. This is probably a bad shape, to be honest. Maybe this works better. Like if you were to break this up, there's certain ways you'll have to break up. I want to be able to take maybe natural language and decompose that into constraints to see how you can navigate the latent space, because like the shapes should be there. But I think it's a big issue because the way that the whole training thing works is that it's not trained for like all constraints you can think of. It's more so that like you give a constraint and trains for that constraint, and then you have a latent space that would exist within the latent within that constraint. It's like a mini world. So that's what I was trying to do there. Um, so then yeah, so then like my idea of having like a natural language process where you can just take a natural, like you can say like, oh, I want something that satisfies these constraints, is a bit more tricky because you then have to train it based on that. um it could be a situation where instead of focusing on like an infinite variable, like instead of focusing on the multiverse of constraints, I can decide to focus on a one world for like Earth 1 or 2, and say, okay, based on this constraint, how can I navigate the living space? I think that's what I'm going to pivot to most likely. What I'm trying to do now, if this thing will work, it's not working right now, but it's probably work later. Is basically map out the latent space and better understand it to see how it changes over the space, I guess, to see like, okay, maybe this area is more thick, maybe this more area is more thin, and then based off that, you can be able to practice. You'll be able to navigate it better. So then through that, you can probably use like natural language and stuff like that to honestly get the shapes you want. And then if you think about this in the context of generative design is basically trying to find novel designs based on basically trying to find models. I can't speak. Basically trying to find novel designs and based on some design some input, some constraint. So with that, you'll be able to like navigate different you wouldn't be stuck to like one design. You'd be able to like navigate to different areas and say like, okay, I prefer this, and build on that, refine it. um but yeah, that's where I'm at. I think it's been a very big day for learning. Definitely disappointing in some areas, but I think I'm excited. I think it's definitely possible because the Graham Short paper track is looking for it's looking for independent research, like researchers who don't necessarily have the same background as a lot of these big researchers who are trying to do something new. Maybe they don't have the computation to show off the results, but they have an idea, a vision, and they have some basis for this theory of theirs. So I think that's what they're really looking for here. So I think if I keep on digging at it and continue breaking stuff and continue hitting a wall with the models, the architectures, I think I'll really get somewhere. Um, but last thing, Turing Hacks is another hackathon at CMU. I did Next Hacks recently, and that was okay. But Turing Hacks is another hackathon happening sometime in March, so I just got into that. So thank the Lord. But I think what I'm also going to do is I'm still going to keep the whole keep the same genre, keep the same vein of world models. I think I learned a lot from the Infinite World hack I did. Infinite Game, sorry, hack I did. I think I know how to like go about these projects better. And still able to get it done. I think I'll be able to get something done better at Target Hacks. I'm really excited. So maybe I can even do something based off this research. Maybe it could be more less focused on the generative games, but more so focused on like the engineering aspect of it. So that would be really, really awesome, especially if I can get this natural language stuff to work. Can you imagine like being in CAD and it's like, okay, I want like this shape and blah blah blah, and can I get like these novel designs and much faster. Um, but we'll see. We'll see. It's all a work in progress. But besides that, I have nothing else to say. So have a great day.